Next, we try to understand the specific product that a company is offering. Here, we start by asking the following questions. One, what is the need that the company is fulfilling? And two, how are they fulfilling this need? Let's use an example. There's a thriving motorcycle taxi industry in many emerging markets. The problem that many motorcycle operators face is that they can't afford to buy motorcycles and are instead forced to rent them at high costs to be able to earn a living. Without affordable financing to put them on a path to ownership, they are in a perpetual cycle of this renting. In response to this problem, a crop of companies have emerged who purchase motorcycles on behalf of operators and lease them to the operators under 24-month hire purchase arrangements. The operators then pay the companies in affordable weekly installments over the course of a 24-month lease. So in this example, and we can use a made-up company called MotoLease, the company is fulfilling the need that motorcycle operators have for affordable financing to enable them to purchase motorcycles. And the company fulfills this need by purchasing these motorcycles and leasing them to the operators under 24-month hire purchase arrangements. Now, once we have a high-level understanding of this solution, we try to understand in detail how the company delivers this solution. In other words, how the product actually works. And because we typically are evaluating lending businesses, the way we try to understand this is by following the money. By this, I mean we ask ourselves the following questions. One, how does the money go from the company to the customer, typically known as dispersals? And how does the money return to the company from the customer, or known as collections? Let's start with dispersals. In the case of MotorLease, the company starts with money in the bank. They use this money to buy motorcycles, and they lease these motorcycles to their customers. So that's the flow. Money in the bank goes to motorcycles, goes to customers. We then take each step of this process to try to understand it better. For example, in trying to understand the first step of the process, the following questions come up. One, how much does MotorLease typically spend on their motorcycles? Understanding this gives us a sense of how much they're spending per motorcycle, or put another way, gives us a sense of what their average loan size is. For companies like MotorLease, this is typically about $1,000. Another question we have is, what type of motorcycles does MotorLease buy? And how do they compare to the motorcycles that the operators are used to operating? This gives us a sense of what sort of the asset specifications is for the motorcycles that MotorLease is acquiring. We then take a look at the second step. In trying to understand how the company gets these motorcycles into the hands of the customers, the following questions come up. One, how does MotorLease determine who to lease the motorcycles out to? What process do they go through to determine who qualifies for a lease or not? In other words, what is their underwriting process? And two, how does MotorLease get the motorcycles into the hands of qualifying customers? Do they have physical branches that they use as distribution hubs? Do they operate without branches? What guidelines do they have in place to govern how they handle these operations? In other words, we're trying to understand how they distribute these motorcycles to their customers. Another question that will come up is there any collateral, right? So what security does MotorLease hold on to in the event that their customers default? Now, next, we take a look at how the money goes back to the company from the customer. In the case of companies like MotorLease, they typically make their money back from their customers by their customers paying a fixed amount of money at a certain frequency over a predetermined period of time. To understand this better, we ask the following questions. How much is the customer expected to pay back? and how frequently and over what period of time. With this information, we can typically infer how much Motorlease makes on a loan and can arrive at an expected APR for each loan that they give out. For example, if the customer is expected to pay $15 every week for 2 years, Motorlease will receive a total of $1,560. This represents a 56% return over 2 years, or an effective APR of 28%. So this information and asking this question actually typically gives us a sense of how much Motorlease makes, or put another way, it just gives us a sense of an APR per loan that they give out, or per lease in this specific situation. Now, two, how does this money actually get to the company? Are the payments electronic payments? Are they cash payments? Does the company have any products that they use to help their companies make these payments? Is there technology built around this? This gives us a sense for exactly how the money moves from the customer to the company, and helps us analyze risks, if there are any risks that exist in that process. And three, what happens with defaulting customers, right? So is there a collections process in place that the company has to help collect on customers who have missed a payment, or who are defaulting entirely? So pulling back a little bit, what we've done is basically just followed the money from the customer to the company, or rather from the company to the customer and back to the company. And following the money this way has given us insights into how the product works. This exercise we've just done with Motorlease has given us the following insights into the product. Right? One, we know the average loan size, which is about $1,000. We understand after this exercise what their underwriting process is like. It's typically a manual process with people individually processing these loans. We would understand the distribution, for example, for the product, which is typically through physical branches. We would also understand what collateral they take for these loans. Now, companies like Motorlease typically have the motorcycles that they give out be the collateral. So if there's a default, they will collect on the motorcycles that they've leased out to the companies, to their customers. Now, what do their customer payments look like, right? So we just calculated that Motorlease would get $1,560 in return for a $1,000 motorcycle lease. What is the APR? Typically, the APR here is about 28%, 30%, or about 30% typically. What is the payment method, right? Is this cash? Is this mobile money? In this situation, it's typically cash and mobile money. And lastly, how does the team undergo collections? It's typically through an in-house team. But, following the money in this way has basically given us insight into how the product actually works. And this is what we typically do on a deal-by-deal basis when we're evaluating a company. Thank you.